All right. Okay, it's 12:05. Thank you all for joining. I am happy to be here with you. As some of you heard, I took I took 4 days of vacation to Cathedral City, Palm Desert last week with my wife, our 2 kids, our 2 new puppies. We had a pool with a hot tub. I'm 51 years old. I've never had 24-hour access to a swimming pool. Felt like I was living the good life. When you grew up in the 70s and 80s in Texas, the way I did, California, all the movies were always in California. The ones from my generation would have been Karate Kid, E.T., and, everything was always just more cool. The dances were better. The scenes where the kids were having their teenage moments, they were always, and there was always a swimming pool in the background. So I was living the dream last week. So thank you to Megan Roberts, James Fang, Perry Poussard, who hosted last week's FEMBA 45, number 5. Guys, thank you so much for doing that. Update for everybody in the entering class, info session. Last time we called it a town hall, but Gonzalez, I'm sick of town halls. Call it something else. We're having an info session on Tuesday night, 5 o'clock to 6:30. We were trying to give you in-person education. We're not able to do that. The rules changed. So if you got any questions, we're going to do the same kind of format. We've got, obviously, a prepared presentation, but there'll also be the chance for Q&A. So have that on your calendar last week. I emailed everybody this morning the last of our summer spotlight series from the 2020 Drive Time crowd-nominated interviews. So Tina Pham, I sent that this morning. Tina's story is really cool. Her parents fled Vietnam. They were adopted by the American Society adopted them. They started out in Wisconsin, and her family's journey and her journey. She was with Nordstrom before FEMBA. She got a promotion the summer before school started, and did the full FEMBA experience, was very, very active, was a student leader, and just started a brand new job with Amazon Go Grocery as a category manager that she started last month. So her story is inspiring. She was nominated by her peers. So she did global immersions. She's got some productivity hacks, FEMBA hacks, life hacks. So wanted to mention that. And okay, and then this is context. Context is decisive. Leaders are always paying attention to context. So I'm not trying to be depressive, but this is what's out there. I'm going to share a screen now. How many of you, who knows about Poets and Quants? Show of hands. Anybody know about Poets and Quants? It's kind of a gossip site, except it's good stuff. It's high quality. John Byrne, the founder of it, he worked for Business Week, and he was the guy who originated MBA rankings. And 10 or 12 years ago, he kind of went on his own way, said, I don't want to work for Business Week anymore. And it's basically a parallel news source. And it's all things MBA. It tends to trend full-time, and it tends to trend Northeast. He's actually a huge fan of UCLA Anderson. He's come to our campus several times. He loves our entrepreneurial spirit. So very often he really showcases some of the highlights. But there's a big article came out yesterday for Wharton's full-time program. And if you know, Wharton just got a new dean, a really killer woman, Erica James. She's a change management expert. She was at Emory. She's a woman of color. And I thought she could have been a cool dean. I actually wrote our chancellor and said, you should get this lady. She's great. And I love Tony Bernardo, but this is before they picked our new dean. And so she's been on the job since July 1, and people are hammering her. So there's all of the stuff that's going on. There's gender, there's race, there's COVID. It's all wrapped up into this story. And I'm just going to show you. They did a survey of these brand new students. They haven't even started the program. These are full-time students. And look where their headspace is at. So watch as I share screen. And you can see the link. I'll put the link in the chat. But student sentiment on the fall quarter. 78% of students are not excited about the upcoming semester. Student sentiment on their Wharton experience. 94% feel the value of their Wharton experience has declined by at least 40%. They haven't even started the program. Just this is where people's heads at. Student sentiment on Wharton's response. 86% of students feel the Wharton administration has not incorporated student feedback in the decision-making process. 76 do not feel their best interests are Wharton's top priority. 69 are less likely to donate in the future. 67 are more willing to donate in the future if they receive tuition relief. 31 are likely to request a leave of absence this fall. 87% of fall classes will not have an in-person component. So, it's kind of a bummer. Why am I sharing this with you? Well, it's what's going on right now out here in the big bad world. And it's a really fascinating article. And, you know, you guys are getting the degree that gets you ready to be in charge of an organization for good times and for times like what we're going through right now, where things are up, down, left, right, and sideways. And let me get that. I'll get the link and put it in the chat because it's a fascinating article. So what I want to do right now is I want to ask you all 3 questions. I got a super quick poll, and it's going to take 45 seconds. The first question is, how does your career look since COVID? Better or worse? Second question is, how's your personal life look since COVID? Better or worse? And third question, and this is specifically for our entering students, this is in a different bucket. During the Leadership Foundation's week, where will you physically be? Will you be at the same address that you used in your application, or will you be in a different address? Because we're working out some logistics on whether or not we send you something in the physical mail. All right, so let me open up this poll. And if you could please complete this real quick, and I'll share the results.
Hey, Dylan.
Yeah.
So real quick, I think this might apply to a lot of people. For number 1 and 2, what if it's just the same, not better or worse?
No. I don't want to give you the out. I want you, if it's 51%, then say that direction. Because nothing's the same. I mean, I'm sure technically it could be the same, but I really want to force your hand. I want to know how things work. And like, this is anonymous. I'm just curious as much as anything.
I think I'm in the same boat as Narendra. Like,
okay, fine. I'm a horrible survey designer. I had like 1 minute to do
it hasn't changed much. I mean, work is great. I mean, it hasn't. I can't say that it's so much amazing before COVID, but I would say like things have.
Okay, I should have done a 5-point scale. Slightly better, slightly worse, and neutral. Thank you. All right. Let me see. Okay, anybody else want to vote? 94% have voted, 95 out of 101, 96 out of 101, 97 out of 101, 98. I think that's probably it, because it's probably James and Liza and myself who've not voted. I don't know. Okay, I'm ending the polling. Share the results. Interesting. Okay, so 57% feel like career looks slightly better, or looks better. I didn't put a descriptor on it. 43% feel career looks worse. Personal life, 49% feel looks better, 51% feel it looks worse. And for the 2023s only, 77% of you will be at the same address and 24% will be at a different. Okay, so if we're gonna mail you something, we got that. All right, any questions about these results before I close this away? All right. So I'm curious about that because my wife and I were running 2 careers, and we have a 3rd grader and an 8th grader who are going to go to school virtually this fall. And yeah, there's a lot that's lost with our children because they don't have the socialization they would normally have. But we have family meals together, and I don't sit on the 405. And my mom was observing. She thinks my younger son. She said, I think Christian's going to look back at this chapter, and it'll be probably one of the best chapters of his childhood because he's getting so much TLC from his parents. Interesting. And my team, we're working much more than we have ever worked in August to bring your class in. And, and the business processes are challenging to do all this stuff from home from everybody. Okay, so thank you for that. All right, so now, with no further ado, I would like to introduce my co-host for this week. Liza Katsman just graduated. She's 2020. She's double Bruin. She's been here before. She had a very tough scientific undergrad and went and had some chapters of life and then came back 3 years ago. She's wrapping up VC summer associate internship. She's also in parallel the founder of Lantern Advising, something she created a 1.5 years ago. She was a Global Access Program Fellow. She was a member of the FEMBA Honor Society. For one of our very, very important clubs out at Anderson, she was on the board. She was the chief of staff. She was in the NAP venture competition and was a semifinalist in that. And she was also a TA for 3 classes, which not everybody does, obviously. But if your life has flexibility and you want to be a TA for our professors, Perry, that you met last week, has also been a TA. So Liza was bold enough to step up when I called for volunteers to help co-host a couple of weeks ago. She's had 0 training on this. She's just courageous, because I really don't have a method other than to say, hey, why don't you share a little bit about yourself, your journey? And with no further ado, I'd love to share today's FEMBA 45 number 6 forward to Liza Katsman. So please welcome Liza. Liza, thank you for being here.
Such an awkward thing to like come onto a stage with 0 applause. There's a lot of opinions around purposely muting people. One of my favorite experts around the art of gathering, Priya Parker, talks about how that's not a good idea, but I divert. So thank you for all the kind things you said about me. One of them was wildly incorrect, however, in that I TA'd 3 classes in my last quarter. I TA'd a total of 11 classes while I was a FEMBA.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I missed that. You did 11?
11, yeah.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, if for some of you that maybe are career switchers and are strong academically and are worried about like not having a job as you're going in between things, TAing is actually a really great option to help with some income, health insurance, things like that. Just something to think about if you have any questions around TAing and how to do that. I started pretty early. Obviously, I wouldn't have had time for 11 if I didn't start pretty early, but once you get your first TA gig and you're good and a professor likes you, you just start getting recommended to TA things. So it's a really cool opportunity. Some of my friends ended up TAing undergrad classes as well. So yeah, just a lot of opportunities. If you're super interested, if you have like a certain field that you're really interested in doing it in, just like start getting to know professors, talk to them. A few of the gigs I got, I just took a class, came to the professor after, was like, hey, do you need a TA next quarter? They're like, yep, you want to do it? Great. I mean, it's that easy. Anyway, one thing I did want to comment on really quickly before I kind of get into my story, and I had a bit of a bumpy one in FEMBA, to be honest, is around what Dylan talked about, the Poets and Quants article, of how the current opportunity of taking classes online and adjusting to digital learning, digital working, all of that is incredibly, it's actually very, very fortunate to be able to learn how to be a manager and how to be a leader in a digital environment, because guess what? That's where a lot of companies are going. So if people are thinking that, oh my goodness, I don't want to learn online. Well, if you're going to have to work online for the rest of your career or whatever, learn how to do it now and make mistakes and have opportunities to be both a student and a leader and a manager in a space like business school, where you're more free to make mistakes. And one of the career counselors that I've actually recently been talking to sent me this article from Harvard Business Review. It came out yesterday. I don't know if you guys have seen it, around 21 jobs in the future of work that are going to be around virtual learning and management and how to, how manage remote teams and all of that. And so I just really encourage you to kind of look at this like an opportunity. Oh, oops, I sent it, but I sent it to my friend privately in here because I'm clearly still learning Zoom. That's the article. So yeah, that's what I'll kind of chime in on that piece. But in terms of me, myself, my career, I came into FEMBA actually while I was working in the entertainment industry. I was there for 4 years and was really, to be honest, I came in because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And all I knew was that it wasn't what I was doing then. And when I came in with the mentality of like, I'm going to be spending a lot of money to figure out the next path or the next fork of my life. I was incredibly insecure, and I thought that I was kind of one of the only people that felt that way. And I had a few really good early kind of interactions around that, and I had a few pretty bad ones. I had some people that shamed me for having that mentality, and it was a little bit of like a kick. And I just want to, and part of the reason I wanted to co-host this is to let people know that, like, if you're in a position where you're coming to an MBA because you don't like your job or you don't like your field and you don't know what you want to do next, and you're just here because, you know, you're like, this is something, this is a degree, this is going to help me, this is going to help me manage, but I don't know what I'm doing next. You are not alone. There is no shame in that. Spend the money. It's worth it. Like, please feel like you're not alone, because I didn't have anybody telling me that when I came into FEMBA, which I think started me off in a bit of the wrong place. And I stayed working in my role for almost 2 years, almost my first 2 years of FEMBA. And it was honestly a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. I did it because of financial security, honestly. And I am incredibly grateful that FEMBA is 3 years, because my first year, everybody's first year is like, you're just trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And the second year, I had a really, really deep kind of personal issue, and I completely checked out. I mean, I went through classes like a zombie, but I completely checked out. And that's life, and that's real. And when I kind of came back out of that, I had a third year to redeem myself, to refigure out what I was doing, what path I was on, to reconnect with people, to kind of decide to leave a mark, and understand that, you know, if I don't do something, like, I'm going to waste that time and that money. And so, you know, I got back involved. I became chief of staff out at Anderson, which is an affinity club. I went on I ended up going on 2 global immersions, one to Chile and one to Scandinavia. And I just reinvigorated myself and kind of plugged in. And it was one of the best things I could have done, because, you know, I finally figured out that, especially with FEMBA, because you're not on campus all the time, you have your own life, you have your own work, you're only going to get out of it how much you put in. And I wasn't putting in that much. And so I felt like I wasn't getting out that much. And when I put in more and I like really committed, and I started to flourish, you know, some relationships, both with students and with some of the professors, which are amazing, you know, like literally a couple of them have just become my personal friends, that there's really a lot of shifts and a lot of things that you can do. And an initiative actually that I was working on, I don't know where it's going now, but like, I was working with student affairs to change, you know, preferred pronouns for admissions, and like things that really make an impact in the school and in the bigger picture, and like things that are going to remain. And so in terms of what I'm doing now, I'm now on the board of Out After Anderson, which is exciting. And we're completely rebuilding the strategy of what that alumni group is going to look like. I'm also on a task force with a pretty large, substantial group of alumni working on helping the school with their strategic initiatives, especially around diversity and equity at Anderson, both around admissions, current students, everything. And just, you know, I'm an engaged alumni. I want to change how to what level alumni stay engaged, because I think that is a lot of what makes the worth of a school is kind of what you do beyond when you leave as well. And in terms of work, I'm wrapping up an internship right now. As Dylan mentioned, I was working with Pledge LA and paired with a VC, but essentially working to bridge the diversity and equity gaps in the Los Angeles startup and VC ecosystem. It's a space that matters a lot to me. And yeah, so next steps, I might finally take a break. I haven't taken a break from work or school in 16 years. So I might take a little bit of a break, but also just, you know, looking at jobs, looking at next steps, and the freedom that Anderson and having an MBA gave me wasn't just getting a promotion or getting a job. It like taught me how to open my horizons and just go for positions or roles or opportunities that I may want that never before even seemed like a fathomable possibility to me. And so that is not concrete. That is not something that is necessarily going to be in the paperwork or in the classrooms when you are in them and when you talk about, you know, jobs or whatever. But that is something very amorphous, but also very important that Anderson or that the FEMBA program gave me. And so I really just encourage you to pay attention to how and where you're leaning into the program, because the returns and the kind of ROI is really going to depend on that. And I welcome any conversations and any reach out. I think Dylan linked my LinkedIn on the chat. I welcome you to connect with me, ask me any questions. I've had a bunch of one-on-ones already over the summer. And yeah, I send all of my best to you. I think you're making a good decision and still learning online. And it's really figure out a way to look at that as a tangible skill that you will now have going back into the workforce. So yeah, that's it. But I'm my Elvis mic drop. Like, what do I do when I'm done?
Yeah, we need some automated gifts that, you know, exploding fireworks. Well, thank you, Liza. You know, thanks for being a double Bruin. You know, thanks for bringing your leadership during the program. Thanks for bringing your honest assessment, right? Like the feedback I'm getting from these drive time interviews is people like the peaks and valleys as much as anything. Not just, I always think, oh, people just want to hear the mountaintop results, but there are valleys. And you know, my MBA was different than yours, but people have heard me say, I felt like everyone's younger brother the entire time. I just felt shorter, slower, less educated. You know, I felt like everybody was a big brother, big sister, big person to me. And it was humbling and it was intimidating and it wasn't always fun, you know, but it did wake me up. It gave me a career. You know, it was a challenge. And, you know, Dean Margaret Shee, who's now running Bruin X, you know, who's now running diversity at a much higher level than when she was even senior associate dean within Anderson. You know, her reflection on, you know, what's the difference between undergrad and grad? Like grad school it's a master's degree. It's not an introduction. It's to master a topic. And if this is not rigorous and relevant, we're not giving you your money's worth. Like it's supposed to kick our butt philosophically, right? You know, you're supposed to get through it, but it's not supposed to be easy, so to speak. And this year, you know, that's, you know, why the Wharton stuff. It's like, if those folks don't want to go to Wharton, wait a year, you know, don't do something. It's like, you know, I'll use the marriage example. You don't have to get married to have a good life, but you know, if you don't want to marry that person, you might want to put the pause on that, right? Because it's a hugely impactful interdependent relationship. And graduate school is a hugely impactful interdependent relationship. This is going to be 15 to 25 hours of your life for 1,000 days. And, you know, we want you to want us. You know, we don't want you to not want what we're offering. And sometimes it's even just if it's right now or next year, right? Like sometimes the school's right, the degree's right, but if the window is wrong. So, you know, this is that discernment period. If anybody wants to defer, you know, the deadline to do that's going to be next week. After that, you'll be a withdrawal. You'll have to reapply. UCLA is not going away. And this is a unique chapter in human history. So it's going to have challenges, unforeseen, unpredicted. It's also going to have opportunities to be created, also unforeseen, unpredicted, but to be created. People are going to make fortunes the next couple of years. who look at this like, huh, what are the new needs that haven't been addressed? And they get in there fast. So, we're one of the best entrepreneurially minded MBA programs in the world. And if that's something that's of interest to you, society's going to reinvent itself this year. Education's reinventing itself. So thank you, Liza. Thank you for still being, I love Out After Anderson. That's just like such the perfect brand extension. I love that. That's, people are busy, right? You gotta say it fast. Okay, so we're gonna send you into groups, and I think we got 100 people. So what do you guys want? 4-person group, 5-person? What do we feel like? Got about 20, 25 minutes. 4, let's do 4. We'll give you a little bit more time. So I'm gonna set up the groups. Enjoy. Be here next week. Next week's the last one. We have one more Drive Time podcast next week. If you can join the info session, if you're a new admit, Tuesday night, we'd love to see you there. It'll be Gonzalo, myself, and the whole team to answer any and all questions. And thank you, James. Thank you, Liza. Thanks for all the upper class folks who are here. And let us run away into breakout rooms.